All right, folks. It's been a couple of weeks since I've done this, so I'm almost screwing this up already. So I forgot to do one thing, but I'm doing that as we speak. And booyah, I believe I got it. All right, folks, what's happening? It's I think it's Tuesday night, something like that, and we're just going to skip all the normal crap that I say forever that obviously really just doesn't mean anything nowadays, but we got a pretty cool show for y'all tonight. So, with that being said, let's go to the smoothest transition in the damn world and all that good stuff. Here we go. Booyah. Well, what's going on, folks? It's the True Vapor Show. It's number 495. We're never going to make it to 500. I'm just letting y'all know that. We'll never, ever make it to 500. And that's only 5 shows away, and I just don't think it'll ever happen. But we've got a special guest tonight. We've got Mr. Brandon from Evolv here, which he's been with us a couple of times in the past, but I was looking, and the last time you was on a show with us was back in 2021. So it's been a couple of years, and everybody just kind of gets to doing their thing. So I'll blame it on Mark. It's probably Mark's fault or it's Mike's fault, one of the two. I never take blame on anything. But anyway, before we get into all the fun stuff, I would hope by now, it's been 3 weeks since there's been a live show on this channel. Mark has got to have something new.
Not me.
Holy crap. Nothing?
I feel like I should be vaping on a Valve chip, but I'm not. I got the old school Geek Vape Aegis
Damn.
21700, the GT4, and whatever this smoke thing is, pot system, the new something. I don't know.
Yep.
Some Stevie Marquez Chaos strawberry custard cookie. Yeah, there we go. And that's it. Just fucking one mod today. Let Mike take it over. Take it away, Mike. Show us all the good
Alrighty,
stuff.
good evening, everyone. Today I am vaping on a whole sellout buffet because I'm selling out today.
Yes.
And no, I'm not kissing his ass. This is what I usually vape. We have a Boxer with the DNA 250C chip. We got the intake dual. We got another Boxer, single 21700 with a DNA 100C chip, Blaze Solo V2 on there. And we're also vaping on the DNA Oxva right over here. Yeah, buddy. And liquids we got some of Joe Mother Effin Turner's Raspberry Custard, Enigma, and where are you? Some Paradigm Decked. Brandon, what are you vaping on tonight?
Going old school.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Reflex. And of course the Oxva.
Nice. ST?
Well, I guess you know me. I'm selling out tonight, but I just got this, so this is kind of what's going on with things. But here's the Oxva with the DNA on it. If y'all didn't catch my little short from last night, go check it out. And of course, the Boxers, both of them with which I never say it, but I will say it tonight. Both loaded with DNAs, obviously, and with the tripod and drawer. And I got Stevie's, all kind of different Stevie juices in there, but there you go. So, let's give kind of like, well, first off, before we jump into anything, I think I've kind of like led on to what's been going on here lately. Consistency is something that I just can't uphold anymore. It's just not, I just can't do it anymore. There's too much going on in my personal life that, the weekly stuff it's going to be hit or miss. From here on out, I'm telling you, if you follow this channel, it's hit and miss when things are. So if you don't see a show up, no, we didn't pull the plug unless YouTube did it. It's just how it is right now. So maybe one day it'll get back to being normal, but for the foreseeable future, it's just not going to be. But so, and I'll kind of keep this because y'all know how YouTube is. There was a particular auto parts store that had some of these Oxvas come into play, and I picked one up. I was curious about it because I know Mike seemed to be pretty. Mike seemed to be kind of in love with his a few weeks back, and I was pushing. I was pushing for the G4 because I got one of these, and this has been like my jam right here. And I told Mike, I said, there is no way that this Oxva can be as good as this G4 right here. Because obviously, now I've had this one, but this is the older version, the one that came out, what, about a half year ago. This is the non-DNA Oxva one. And it was decent, but the airflow just didn't seem as good as what I've been getting out of some other things. So we get to yesterday. I put juice in this thing. These are the stainless steel pods. Put it in the device. Mess around with the airflow a little bit. And I don't know what it is, but this one vapes different than the other one. And I am enjoying this one. So is it the DNA and all the workings to it that's making it work better, or what's going on here? Brandon?
It's probably, yeah, it's probably the fact that it's stainless. The interesting thing about the stainless steel pods is they're a little bit lower resistance than what they show on the screen.
Yeah.
So you're not getting any, with pod mods, and this is not picking on any particular pod mod because they're all pretty much the same. They all use PWM boards, which can never go above battery levels. So as your battery declines, if it needs, let's say it needs 3.6 volts to hit the wattage you've set, once that battery drops below 3.6, you're not getting whatever wattage is set on the screen. With the stainless steel pods, you're going to notice that it stays whatever you dial in from 100% battery all the way down to 0% battery. So it's very
so true.
way. And we're doing some pretty cool things with the board itself, but we can get into that if you want.
Well, so right off the bat, and here's how long it's been since I've been an Escribe.
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, wasn't Escribe, you couldn't use a Mac to get in at first, right?
Yes, yeah, we didn't have a Mac version for I think a couple years, but yeah.
Well,
we finally relented.
Well, it's been forever. And like I said, since I've been an Escribe for anything. So when I got this, I was kind of like, well, shit, I want to go into Escribe and mess with this thing real quick. So again, not knowing, the first thing I thought of, well, I know Brandon. Let me hit him up and see if anybody can give me this answer, he can. Well, I reached out to him, and I didn't hear back just for a little bit, so I kind of went ahead and did a little snooping around and figured out, oh, well, they do have a max setting to get an eScribe. So I went ahead and went into it and was messing around a little bit, and it's pretty cool, the features you have. I even put my logo on here. It's kind of hard to see because you've got, like, the other print that's over the top of it, so it's kind of hard to see, but it is on there. But I was kind of just navigating and looking at the stuff in there, and it's pretty much like any other DNA. You know, it's set up to where you can do some customization on things, but, you know, hell, everybody's running pods nowadays. I know there's still a lot of old school guys doing big boy stuff, but pods have just, like a person like me, I kind of vape dimensionally. I do different styles of things, but I've always got a pod on me. So it's kind of cool to have something like this. And if you're kind of that techie person that likes to go in there and mess with stuff, you know, you've got that option to do. But even if you never went into eScribe, though, it's still kind of dialed in, like, pretty much where you would never have to mess with eScribe if you didn't want to. But
I think they have an easy mode and like you know, if I'm not mistaken, I could have sworn they had an easy mode for eScribe and then like a more complex mode.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Oxva version of Escribe, which they wanted us to do a version just for them, it's got the Oxva and the DNA logo in it, and it's available on our website. Is a sort of trimmed down version of Escribe. Um, there were a lot of parts to this that because this is set up specifically for their pods, we don't want people poking around. We modeled and characterized each pod.
Yeah.
Uh, this whole project took us about 13 months, um, and uh, just to get it just perfect. And we wanted it to be easy enough that you didn't have to do anything. I mean, now here's the crazy bit. I was talking to John yesterday, and he said, Brandon, this is the completest DNA we've ever made.
Wow.
So, but we wanted something that was out of the box. You don't have to set a temperature. You don't have to fiddle with it. It just works. Um, and that's what we were going for with this.
And you did perfect with it because I didn't even know you could go on eScribe with this.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
there
yeah.
was really no reason for me to even
No.
think of going on eScribe for it because it just worked.
Yeah.
Right.
It did everything it was supposed to do. So that's what impressed me. That's why, and when I did my video, that's where I was like, you know what, this is right now the number one pod in my opinion. And what you were saying before about other pods with the wattage, I noticed that especially with the Caliburn. I was vaping on the Caliburn G3, and when a full battery, it hit beautiful. But as the day went on, I noticed I'm taking vapes, and it's showing me I just took a hit for 12 watts. Meanwhile, I got
Right.
it set at like 19. It
Yeah.
wasn't giving me the 19 watts. It was just declining as it went on. The vape just got weaker and weaker because the battery got weaker and weaker. This one here hasn't done that. It's just been a strong hit throughout.
Yeah, and that's what you'll get. That's what we wanted. I mean, my big complaint with pod mods was exactly the same as yours. It just weakened throughout the hit. And these are using the topology of the board is PWM on this is same as all the rest. But one of the it's kind of a funny story. I'm kind of talking out of school a little bit here, but one of the things we realized when we decided to do a pod mod was that, well, we got it together for Oxva, and they wanted this backward compatible so that it would work with their Canthal pods. And so we gave them, this was before we even had the stainless steel pods sort of where they wanted them taste wise and everything. And so they were using Canthal pods on it. And they're like, this just doesn't feel the same. And we're like, it is the same. I mean, so we grabbed one of their Pro 2s and measured the output. And we're like, whoa, that's weird. Okay, so with different resistances at different battery levels, we were getting different results from an output standpoint. And we were like, what the heck is going on? It wasn't that the battery wasn't, at a level enough to keep up with it. It's just that the output was wrong. 16 watts was not 16 watts. And sometimes it was higher, sometimes it was lower. And we started looking at other pod mods. So what it amounts to is there was a mistake made early on in the math with these boards, these pod mod boards, and everybody who's brought one out since has sort of copied the same mistake. So they're all putting out. So if you look in eScribe, we have there's a little checkbox underneath if you go into the atomizer section that says I can't even remember what it says, but it was a little snarkier before we brought it up publicly, but it says something. I believe it says true RMS or something like that, and that's so that you can turn on, and it comes by default turned on to the mistake. So when you put a Canthal pod on this, it acts exactly the same way. Now, when you put on a stainless steel pod, it's giving you a true wattage. When you put on a Canthal pod, we had to match the mistake that the Pro 2 made. So we had to actually change the output, how it did it, so it would be the same. So if you're somebody who likes the 0.6 18 watts. We wanted that 18 watts to feel the same, even though it's not 18 watts. So that was a little weird. But we noticed that, and so we started looking at other pod mods and measuring the output, and we're like, oh shit, they all made the same mistake. They're all wrong. So yeah,
I've noticed that for a while. With
Yeah.
that, I thought that was just the norm with
No,
these.
no,
because
no.
Every one of them did it. But with this one here, I was like, this
Yeah.
thing's just hitting hard throughout. It's just, it's
Yeah,
too
and we can do
beautiful.
some things with the stainless that we can't do with the Canthol stuff. One of the reasons it feels real consistent is, we're reading the atomizer resistance at about 30,000 times a second, like a normal, and our PWM frequency is super, super high. So, compared to like 100 hertz or, which would be on and off. I don't know if you know how PWM works, but it's, full battery or
Kind
off.
of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you're effectively taking an average. And so it's either on full or it's off, and depending on how much battery you have and what what wattage you have set, the gap between on and off and how long it's on and how long it's off changes. Theirs read, most of the ones on the market, not all of them, but most of them read kind of slow, like 150 times a second, 100 times a second, 60 times a second. That's why, you've heard people complain about the rattlesnakey thing.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. Ours is, tops out at about 30,000 times per second. So a little different.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Question. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but Mark is kind of shy when it comes to things. He wanted me to ask you a question. He wants to know when and who is dropping the first DNA disposable device.
Everybody-
That's okay. So let's back up a little. Okay, so it's 2018, and we're head down working on our PMTA. This device, which is our PMTA device, and coming off of 2016, 17, kind of top of our game. Probably drunk on our own Kool-Aid. We're like, we don't need to do anything for a couple of years. So we didn't. And we stopped at some point paying attention to what the market was doing, to things that would sell. I remember seeing a disposable back in like 2018, 2019. And I'm like, oh, this is stupid. This is like going back to the early single days.
Yeah.
From a technology standpoint. And that was the dumbest thing I ever did, because it was arrogance, I think. So we looked at that and we were like, oh, nobody's ever going to want that. But we weren't in tune with what people actually wanted, which was ease of use. They wanted something simple, and so over the next, from about 2020 to about to about this year, we watched Descending Revenue, and we're like,
Yep.
so we had to eat a lot of humble pie because we missed it completely. And so John and I, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, said, well, what can we do? If this is the market now, if this is what it's going to be, we've sort of moved from a enthusiast market to a commodity market. And, God, sorry about that, guys. My dog is.
No, you're fine.
But anyway, so we said, well, what can we do? We said, well, we need to get into pod mods. How do we do that? Well, we can't make a $150 pod mod. Nobody will ever buy it, or a board that goes into $150 pod mod. So we said, okay, how do we make a cheaper DNA? But one that has something special enough, and we're solving enough problems that it makes sense. And the main problem we came up with was burning pods. I carried pods when I wasn't when I didn't want to grab a bigger unit and take it with grab pods. And so we said, well, let's make one that doesn't burn, like actually doesn't burn. You can take this, if you try it, ST, if you try it, just if you have a stainless pod, just take an empty pod and throw it on there. Don't put any juice in it. Don't do anything. Pull it right out of the package, throw it on there, and take a puff.
All right,
They
let's
But you
play
got to
this.
put it in. You don't have to put it in replay mode, right?
Nope. No. This no, that's the beauty of it. You don't ever have to touch replay on this. It will just
Replay is more of if you
not
like
burn.
that hit, you just lock in that
Exactly,
hit.
exactly. It's that's more of like a flavor saver kind of thing,
Yeah.
where if you like that flavor, if the third hit is always the one that you're like, gosh, I wish they
Yeah.
were all and tasted. Yeah. So
Nice, nice. Question for you.
sure.
Obviously, you've said it yourself how the market has gone now.
hmm
How is business going with the big boy chips?
All right, real quick.
You know what? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's this is the point six, I believe.
0.6 ohm.
Wait, this is it a stainless steel?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Show my man.
Yeah.
It's at the 23 mark, and I haven't tried this. And Brandon, if this goes wrong,
Well, it very well could. So
all right, well, we're about to find out. So just take a hit.
I haven't tried it either. That's why I want you to do
Oh
it.
my God. Here we go.
Guinea pig.
Hold it in.
Nothing.
That's that's crazy.
That is crazy because I already had my insides getting ready for the most
all
worst
tensed
thing
up.
to go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I would have never probably tried that without being somebody telling me to do that.
Mhm.
But that's remarkable right there because, I mean,
Yeah.
to all the people that do vape on pods, now, one thing I'm pretty visual about, I'm always holding it up just to kind of see where my juice is at because I don't want to ruin a pod just because I forgot to put juice in it. So I'm pretty good at eyeballing. But now just doing that, if this was my only device, I mean, if I took a vape and nothing came out, I'm like, oh, well, I must not have any juice in it. I'm not going to have any, bad things going on. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's what's beautiful about it.
I'd have that happen so many times where I put a dry pod in and just didn't realize it and start vaping on it and just wasted an entire pod.
yep.
Mhm.
I've done it myself, and that was kind of the thing we came up with, and e-cigarettes are becoming so commodity now that the changes, the improvements, the innovations are not sort of revolutionary anymore. They're more incremental, like what you have with cell phones. Every year the new cell phones, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it has crash detection. Do I
Yep.
really need? Well, but that was one problem that we thought we could solve and solve pretty well. And we didn't want to bring it out unless it was perfect. And my thing with perfect was if I put an empty pot on it, I don't want it to burn. And that's a lot longer than you think. That's a
Yeah.
little hard. That was hard to do. So anyway, yeah. So we were full of ourselves back in 2018. We just didn't pay attention to what was going on. And I actually had people like Mike, influencers, people telling us, this is where it's going, and we were just like, nah. So it was good for us to sort of get some humility and realize that some of the directions we had gone, which was really techie, really nerdy, was not going to be something that appealed into the future. So I think the best technology is the stuff that's unseen but solves a big problem, and I think this is the first step in the right direction on that end.
So basically, like what I asked you earlier about how has like the DNA 250C, the DNA 100C, the 60, how have you've seen the sales decline on those chipsets, especially
Yes.
250, right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, 250. Yeah. I mean, there are still, people making 250s. We still get orders. Certainly not enough orders on the 60, the 60C, the 250C, the 100C to sustain a company. I mean,
Which is mainly from modders, not like the big
absolutely.
manufacturers. Right?
Absolutely. But we build our business on modders. I mean, the guys that are most important to us are the guys that are making 50 mods a year. Because those guys, we've always looked at them as sort of opinion makers, and everything kind of filters down from that level down. It's like it's like the supercars. You always see aspects of last year's supercar and this year's,
Hmm.
production model. So, but we don't sell nearly as many, but we do sell. I mean, I'm actually still amazed at how many DNA, especially the 60 series, the 60C and the 60.
Yeah. Well, they're putting them. That's because like those chipsets are going in like devices like this, small little devices.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing to me how quality some of that stuff is now. I mean, I just,
Yeah.
you know, I'll,
This
Yeah.
one's got your 80 chip in here,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I
DNA.
love that little chip right there.
Yeah.
That
which
thing's
that was
great.
that easy chip.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about the 80 is that one of the first mods that was released with the 80 was the San AIO, and it had a major issue. They used a big stainless steel plate in the top, and they used that for the grounding, and so it added to the resistance of the mod, and it pulled down batteries really fast because it had to
Mm.
compensate for this big ass plate in the top. And so the 80 sort of got this reputation of being a battery killer. Oh, look how fast it ran down. Now it's not as efficient as a 60, but you shouldn't see a noticeable difference with an 80. And it sort of got that moniker because there were a lot of those out there, and everybody's like, "Wow, this thing goes through battery really fast."
Mm.
So now I still hear today, I still hear people saying, "Oh, the 80, yeah, I'd use it, but it eats up." It eats up battery too quick. But the 80 was our first attempt at doing something a little bit on a little bit cheaper, that's not a 60. And also something that was, made for the burrow mods, because burrows at that time were very popular.
Mhm.
Especially in Southeast Asia, places like Indonesia and Malaysia. And so we wanted to make a board that would fit very nicely underneath a tank and next to an 18650. So if you look at
Mhm.
the DNA 80, it's exactly, if you take a normal burrow sized tank, stack it on top of a DNA 80, it's
Yeah,
exactly
that's the way it
an
is.
18650, right? Yeah.
Even on my device, I think what was one of the first ones that we did, the one with
Yep. Yep.
Thunder. I was
Oh,
gonna say
Thunderclap.
Thundercloud,
Yeah,
Thunderhead
Thunder.
Craze, the Blaze.
Yes, the Blaze. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very,
but that's
very.
that was the I think that was the first one that had the ADC chip in it.
Yeah, the Thunderhead creations. Yeah. That was I love that little mod.
Yeah,
I
I,
still use
I got a whole bunch of them right up here.
So you had, well, we had kind of talked offline about this a little bit, but
it.
so you're about to move forward, going with different companies, putting this. Is it going to be this exact?
No, 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 no. That's the interesting thing about this because the margins are so tiny on this board. What we wanted to do was give them a board that, give people a board that they could keep, so they could keep the price down. I don't know what the Oxva Pro 2 DNA sells for in a shop next to a Pro 2 or what the price difference is, but we wanted that to be as small as possible and still be able to get your DNA.
I
So,
think the DNA version in the Oxford is running. I want to say around that $40 mark. I think.
okay.
I think that's where it's at.
Which is about where it should be, I think. And that, so to do that, we have to sell a lot of the boards, and we have to, and each manufacturer has custom encasements and things like that. So the boards can't be sort of spec, if you will.
Gotcha.
So you can't just bring out a DNA 60 and hand it to everybody, or a DNA 60 version pod. So what we've been doing is working with larger companies that can afford to buy a lot of these, so it makes it worthwhile for us because we're not making a lot on any one board.
Yeah.
But in aggregate, we make more. Well, maybe not make more. We actually make less, but
So
but we
basically,
make something.
so basically, what you're saying is like the Oxfa, the chip
Yeah.
that's in here, the footprint
Yes.
of this chip.
That
If
is
another company
wholly
wanted, they won't get
specific.
because they're going to go
No,
with a different footprint for their mod.
absolutely,
So you'd
absolutely,
have to create a whole different chip for them.
absolutely. Now the architecture will be very similar.
Right.
The size may be smaller, it may be bigger. That's certainly not the smallest chip we can make. because of the topology, it makes it a little bit easier. We can make a very thin, very small chip, but yeah, there are all different types coming. I'm working. You'll see two very soon on the market, and then there's an additional two coming after that.
And
Are
these
you
are all
allowed to? Are you
pods.
allowed to give a hint on who these next two are?
I'm really not.
Okay, I figured you would.
Well, they would be mad at me. I don't mind.
I had to ask. You might slip by mistake and say, "Oh yeah."
Talk to me after the show.
But all of these are going to be pod systems, right?
Yeah, these are all pod systems. They're all, and the reason for that is this board likes a very specific, this topology likes a very specific. We have to take each of these pods and model them. You have things like, okay, I'm making a zero point 0.6 ohm. Okay, how much variance in the 0.6 ohm is there? Like out of 1,000 of these, if we measure them, what's the range? Because it's not going to be exactly 0.4 on every single pod. So we have to know that. We also model the pod for cooling. One of the reasons we can do this without taking a reference, like I don't know if you remember temperature control stuff, but we'd ask you new pod, old pod. One of the reasons we don't have to do that with these pod mods is because we're modeling the pod itself, the thermal properties of the pod, so we know how quick it cools down, how quickly it heats up, so that if you put this on hot, we can look at where it is. We know what it is. We just don't know if it's the same one that you just had on here. But if we watch it for a few seconds, we know just in the curve cooling where it is, because the curve, it's not linear. It's not, when it cools down, most of your cooling happens in the first minute, but then it slowly cools further after that. And so we know by modeling that exactly where, what the pod is, what the resistance is, and so forth, because they're very repeatable in that way, because they cool in a very certain way. And that's how we got around the whole needing. Now we still do reference readings. So what'll happen is after you leave this sit without touching anything on it for about, well, it depends on the pod, but for about 10 minutes, that's when it will take one more sampling and say, okay, just to be sure this is the right, that we picked right.
Right.
It does look at the pod continuously, and watch it cool to know what it's doing and so forth. That's what I mean. It was a long process. There's a lot of technology in this, but none of it you have to know. I mean, you just slap a pod on there.
Just
Right.
go. I'm
And
curious,
go. Never burn. Right out of the box, never burn.
so let's say future endeavors that you're working on right now, are there going to be more options with this board in different pods, or is it going to be kind of, can you say
Yes.
that? Or
Yes, I can say that. There's actually some cool stuff. There's some old stuff that we're bringing back. There's but none of it, again, it all goes to convenience, because why were disposables so popular?
just
The
the ease?
disposables, yeah, the ease of use. I
Yeah.
mean, it's, you don't have to think about it. And so, like I said, that dose of humility taught us something, and that's that, like I said, the best tech is the stuff you don't see. And it just works better, pick it up. Why do people love iPhones? I'm not an iPhone user, but every time I pick up an iPhone, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Everything's smoother. Everything just feels right.
That's not my experience.
We've got to touch on that. Why don't you like an iPhone?
You're speaking to two people, me and Mark, that are like Apple users, and Mike is on that Android kick.
Right. Yeah, I'm an Android. I'm a Pixel user, so but I do appreciate the amount of work that went into making the iPhone what it is. You don't see that level of, I don't know what you call it, polish finish, on a Android phone. Well, maybe the Samsung stuff, because that is quite good, but at least not on the Pixels.
Right.
I just like pixels because they do cool things. So,
They got nice cameras.
but they do, and I beat the well, am I allowed to swear on here?
Oh yeah, you can cuss all you
I
want.
beat the heck out of my phone. So, yeah.
Brandon, I got a
what do you
question
call
for you. Now,
Sure.
with this, with Oxva, for example, is how did this work with them? Is this something that China asked you for, or did you go and offer this chipset to
Uh,
China?
I went and solicited the companies I wanted to work with.
Gotcha.
So I I had tried a lot of pod mods. Like I said, I would always grab a pod mod, try not to be seen using a non-DNA device. But I would grab a pod mod when I was out and about. And I knew which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. I had tried the Oxva. I knew they were like number one in Europe. And Vaporesso is number one in the US, I think. And Oxva is number one in Europe, or at least most European countries. And I tried one of their pods. I was like, well, what is it about the Oxva? And I tried one of their pods. I'm like, oh man, this is good. I mean, this is like rebuildable good flavor.
Yeah.
So I went to Justin, the owner. I'd never met him. One of the few companies I had never talked to over there was Oxva, and they're only like 4 years old. So, um, and I went to Justin and I said, hey, I've got this idea. I want to do this thing. And he's like, we're in. So they were the first to sign up and go. I
Nice.
talked to ST. I did talk to UL too.
Yeah, we talked about that. But,
Yeah,
but
I really do want to do a UL because I really do like their flavor. That was one of the pods I was using.
but they don't want to play right now.
I think I think there's a little bit of that and a little bit of being a corporation, you sort of have your track already set months
Yeah.
in advance, and I'm not sure that me coming in and derailing that made everybody happy. So there are some there that are advocating hard to get that going because they think that this is our hope is that pod mods that don't do this a year from now are unsaleable. And not just with our board, but I mean, just in general, this is a good feature to have. It's a safer feature. It's
Oh, yeah.
the pods last longer. I mean, the pods definitely last longer.
Yeah.
You're not as likely to burn them out. You don't have to look at your juice anymore. I mean, you could make a completely black pod with this, and you would know instantly when it was empty.
You know what? That is like, well, I still feel that you need to be able to see what you're doing filling them up.
Sure,
But you could go down different roads since you don't have to see what's in the pod. I mean, you need to know when you're filling it up, when you're full, so you're not making a mess.
right.
But it does open opportunities, like if you wanted to do some crazy color scheme on a pod or whatever, just something different, because most pods look the same. They pretty much
Yeah.
have to. But
Me personally, I don't think that's a good call to make colored pods because perfect example would be what you said before. You can't see your liquid, number one. Number two, and what if you leaving the house?
That's a great point.
that's
a great-
true. That's true. I mean,
And you have then
Yeah.
you're 5
Then you gotta
minutes
grab
out,
two
you're on the
pods.
road,
You
go to
gotta
take a
grab
vape,
2 or
and,
3. Yeah.
and
No,
you're
I
getting
agree.
no hit, and you're like, is there liquid in here?
yeah.
Maybe just put like a small slit that
Yeah.
if you look at that side, you can see. Okay, it's right there.
And I know the older I get, the worse my eyesight gets. So I need just about every bit of real estate to see what's going on with things anyway. But
Yeah,
Yep.
you and me both.
Mark, you had a question. Go ahead. You could ask it now.
What was my? Oh wait, what was my question? Here we go. If there was a fight between you and the guy that created the die codes chip, who would win?
oh shit,
I'm a lot bigger than he is.
Okay, I have no idea who he is.
No, they're good guys. I've never met him. Either.
I never met him
I've seen him in interviews. I just know I'm not taller than there.
I thought you were going to ask the other. He's shy, like I told you.
No, the die codes does a very, very good job. They really do.
The actual question he wanted to know is Juul putting a DNA chip in their pods?
I mean, the FDA didn't they approve Juul? I mean,
They did approve Juul, which
never
surprised
say
me.
never. I would say.
But the No, I have not talked to the Jewel guys.
Yeah, but could you do something for a Jewel? Because I know a Jewel is super small. Could you?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've already sort of set the boundaries of how small we can go with this.
Yeah.
Now it is a little more expensive because we're using a little different size package components, but yeah, we could get real tiny with this. Um, but yes, yeah, we could get Jewel. Oh, Jewel would be no problem. I mean, if you open up, not that I'm advocating you open one up, but if you open up the Oxva board, um, there's a board about yay big, but the entire rim, the entire side, they wanted component free. So all the components are in, sort of this 50% of the board right in the center. Um, but, again, it's an easier topology. You don't have a big inductor on there, that big hunkin' looking thing that's heavy. Because it's a PWM, you don't need an inductor or any of that. So
Well,
it's
beyond pod systems,
Mhm.
do you have anything in the works? Let's say with some out of the country place that you're going to do something like a new larger style mod with your board?
If somebody brought us something, I would say yes. I mean, one of the things that people are clamoring for, because there are still guys that want to use the 250C. The problem with the 250C is that it's got a, you know, circa 2016, micro USB on it. The USB micro B.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're looking at right now, it wouldn't take much, is to redux the 250C to a USB-C 5 amp charge. We can go higher than that.
I've been waiting for that for years.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah, and that is something that John and I have talked about. I think the reason people aren't using 250C right now is because of the fact that it still has the micro B. Even if you're only using it with 2 batteries, you've got a micro B sitting there, which
Yeah.
really is silly in this day.
Yeah, like for me personally, I don't use the port to charge, but there is the situations to where you leave the house, you forgot to swap your batteries out,
Mhm.
and you're like, shit, let me plug it in and at least get something in the car.
Right,
And it's like, okay, I only got Type C because my phone is Type C.
right.
And it's like I can't use it. So now, like for me, I've gotten used to it where I have both. I got the micro and a Type C in the car. I got the micro in a glove box. I know just in case
Right,
I leave that, I know I could charge this.
right,
Plug it in, which
right.
I've done that plenty of times. But that would be nice for it to be strictly a Type C to eliminate micro USB forever, because that's the only thing that I really use.
Right.
Would be
And
for
me
this.
too.
So.
Yeah, me too. I have to, the Reflex has a micro B, and I'm always scrounging when I go to charge one up, to try to find a cable. Yeah, the interesting thing about this is how you lock it, by hitting the two buttons together to lock it. The reason for that is we're using a Texas Instrument charger chip that also has battery management on it, which is really, really cool. It's a really cool chip. It's a sort
Holy
of,
shit. Texas Instruments still a thing.
oh yeah, yeah, they make good stuff. And this is sort of their uh, cell phone style battery charger. So this, the battery in this Oxva is, very safe up to 3 amp charging, but Oxva did not want to do that because they felt like that the device got too warm. But that charging chip that we use in that is capable of doing 3.5 or 3.4 or 3.5 amp charging. And I have mine set to 3, so mine charges in like 10 minutes. I mean, from zero. It's just like, just you
It
can
charges pretty quick. And
Yeah.
what you said about the buttons locking it, I've noticed that because I keep
Yeah,
this in the
reason-
pocket. Sometimes I'll pull it out, go to take a vape, and nothing is
Right.
happening. No power.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell happened? And it's because these
Yeah.
two buttons, I guess, in my
Yeah.
pocket pressed together.
Depressed, right? Well, the funny thing about that is John didn't tell me that he was putting this BQ, which is the chip that we use from TI, on this, and we got all the way to the probably close to pre-production on this thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you don't click it 5 times anymore. If you leave this sit for a day, it will automatically power completely down. And the only way to get it out of that is to hit both of the two buttons on the side, to bring it back. And I didn't know that. You can still lock it by clicking it 5 times. That's not in the instruction manual, but we figured, if I don't read instruction manuals, so if I pick this up and I want to lock it, I can still click it 5 times and it will lock. But but it won't if it's been sitting for a day. Then it's completely shut down. It's in like a storage mode at that point because it thinks you're not going to use it. So it's like, oh, they must have.
First time that happened to me, I was confused. I was like, "Is something wrong with it?" I was like,
Yeah,
why
no,
can't
that's what you
I had to
experience.
I had to plug it in. When I plugged it in, it came to life.
Yeah.
Yes, there's two ways to turn it on. One is you just hit and hold the two buttons, or you plug it into USB.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it going into what we call a deep sleep or like a storage mode where it won't use any battery at all.
Right.
I do like how it shows your clicks on the screen to kind of let you know where you're at. So you're 1, 2, or 3, and then if you do the
Right.
4. So, because, a lot of times when you have these devices and you got to click, 20 times to get into a certain menu, you'll forget how many times you've clicked and all this and that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to visually see that on there.
Yeah. They did that for me. I'm too old to try to see those little hash marks. I can't see shit.
I can't either.
Same here.
So, I've got my readers right here, and I don't want to have to stick those on every time I'm trying to change something.
Brother, we all
Right
got
next
them.
But they did that, and John came up with that idea. He was like, "Well, hey, after 3 clicks, we'll just throw a number in the middle. To be so from 4 up gets a number because there's you can change this. This thing has like seven different languages on it. It's got a lot of flash memory, so we can do a lot with this from that standpoint. So it's got all this. It's got all this memory that's just stuffed with things like every conceivable language that you could ever want to use it with.
Well, I noticed when I plugged it into Escribe, my whole screen was lit up with all kind of different things going on. I was like, "Holy shit, this is just a pod system."
Yeah, the cool thing is when you start getting into how you can change the LEDs and things like that. They use the LED in a very, very simple way, but you can really go crazy with that. And you can change the screen, how it looks, the numbers, the letters. You can rearrange. There's a lot there.
There's definitely a lot on it.
See what the themes come out. The themes that come out.
It kind of makes me wish, from everything that I've seen that you can do changes to, it makes me wish that the screen was a little larger on it. But I get what it's a pod at the end of the day. So, but
yeah, the first time I saw a Pro 2, I was like, "Whoa, that's a nice screen." And then you hit the button, and it's just this little itty, all this extra black space all the way around it, and you're like, "Oh shoot!" But it is a pretty high res screen, so it does okay. But
I never look at the screen, to tell you the truth.
neither do I. And that was one of the things I argued.
I set it and forget it. That's the way I roll with this. The only time I would, if anything, would be just to click it on to see where my battery is at. That's about it.
Which that's one of the things that we're working on right now. We have some in the field that are reporting that when you click it, let's say you puff it 3 times. Let's say you charge it up to 70%. You're puffing on it. Maybe you puff it 3 times, and what I'll do is after I'm done puffing, I might hit the button and look at the battery charge just so I know if I'm leaving or something like that. And it'll say I had it the other day say 32, and I'm like, whoa, it was 70 a minute ago. I know I didn't run it down that far with 3 puffs. But I waited like, I don't know, 10 seconds and it jumped back up. So that's something that we're going to have to look at. That is definitely, people are reporting, they're like, oh, the battery runs down really fast on this. I don't think it's that. I think it's the the program is reporting the wrong
Right,
reporting
right.
the wrong battery level, which is a new
I haven't
plug.
noticed that with mine.
Well, good. Good. Some people have. I've gotten some rather terse emails. But it's, and that's what got me to looking at it. I wasn't really looking at that before, but it's, um, I don't know. We've never been really great at, we use fuel gauging, which is, we do the curve of the battery, but we give you an actual percentage of how much is left. So when you're at 50%, there's actually 50%
Right.
left instead of just reading a voltage off the battery. And I don't know if that's smart. I mean, are we being too clever by half by doing that? That's something you get with cell phones. If you're at 50% on your cell phone, you still have 50% of the time
Yeah.
left. You know, um, is it being too cute, and ending up with a problem like that? I don't know. But, at first we thought, wow, okay, why are the batteries running down? And then we're like, well, when we started to get reports of it, we're like, oh shit, why are the batteries running down so fast? But it's not actually the battery. The battery's fine. It just, the,
Oh,
the board is not reading and displaying the appropriate percentage. So
got a
I forgive
question
it.
for you. Is there, like this chip, obviously you could go with the Oxva onto Escribe. Can you do
Mhm.
updates on this if there was an update that was
Absolutely.
needed?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things Oxford wanted with theirs is that we can force updates. So if you plug this in with the Oxford one in and you have one, let's say you have one that was pre-production, like you had some that were pre-production.
Yeah, this one.
So yeah, so when you plug it into the Oxford one, it will literally pop up and say, you're running on pre-production firmware. We're going to go ahead and update the settings and the firmware. Now, the interesting thing with the pod mods is that, like with your 250C, you can keep your settings file and, change the firmware, no issue. But with this, because the changes have been, pretty dramatic, a lot of times you'll need a new settings file. So we force a settings update as well. So ST would lose his background and things like that. But hopefully there won't be any more, big ones like that.
Right.
But, like I said, we have this battery display issue, which, just popped up. And, because they only started selling the Oxford ones, I think, mid-June. So they've only been out a month.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
hadn't been long.
Yeah, maybe 100,000 of them out there right now. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that you're always with new technology. You're always like fingers crossed. Is everything going to work? Exactly. There's always those edge cases that you don't get when you're beta testing because we did a very thorough beta test of this. We handed it to a bunch of people and said go out and beat up on this thing as best you can. And there's always those weird things you don't catch.
Right, right.
And then like, oh shit, we got to put out and then you got to explain to somebody who isn't used to having to plug their device in to do firmware updates. So they have to do a firmware update. It's, we were hoping that it was perfect coming out, but nothing's ever perfect. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that
Mhm.
things like if there is a problem that you could do a firm, it's not basically you could say, okay, this device is garbage. You could update it and
Right.
fix it.
Yeah. 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 And it's
Oh,
hard to keep these. So yeah, I mean, you can't, functionally the thing will work perfectly.
yeah.
The battery
So
will last as long as it's going to last. It's
W-
just
w-
this
right.
dumb
One
thing.
more question for you. Since
Mhm.
since the release of this device,
Mhm.
has there been companies that have messaged you, oh, we would like
Yes.
to put that chip in that you didn't talk to
Yes.
already?
A couple surprisingly large ones contacted me after this, so
really,
I'm kind of excited. I mean, these are people I've tried to sell for years that have never bought anything from me. That they're like, hey, you know, can you
it
come
took
over and
one
demo?
company to do it. Now people are like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm grateful to Oxva for, taking a swing with this because, they didn't know. It's always scary being the first guy out and, but I think we spent enough time on this to make sure that it worked perfectly. From a functional standpoint, this is by far the best pod mod I've ever used. Um, we wanted everything from the, sort of qualitative, the taste, the flavor. We wanted everything to be perfect with this. And they were just as dedicated to wanting this thing to be perfect. And it was nice working with a team that was like, you know what? This isn't coming out in December. It was supposed to come out in December of last year.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, no, it's not ready. It's not fully baked. We need to go back to it. And I give them props for, they're wanting it to be as perfect as we wanted it to be. Don't rush it out. Don't use your users as beta testers. Where they get to discover all the bad things that are going on with it. So I feel like this one is fully cooked. We're still going to find little things, but like Mike said, it's easy to fix with a firmware update, or if you can live with it, if you just wait 10 seconds, that'll readjust itself. But
Yeah.
or the display will readjust itself. It's just little things like that.
Yep, little glitches.
Do you have somewhat of an idea when the next pod with the DNA is going to drop?
I'm hoping it'll be in September.
Oh, that's pretty quick then.
Yeah. We've been working on three of them for some time, but
I think I know who it is.
The pods are the tough part. Getting the pods just right, and
Yeah.
I think we learned through the Oxva thing that the qualitatively you want the best possible flavor. You want the best possible everything. So don't rush it. Just get it out. When you get it out, but make sure it's good. And that one has some different features on it. Nothing ground shattering, but they're all based on the same family of tech, but doing it in different ways. So, and there's a, yeah.
I was gonna say that this surprised me, the Oxford one, but I thought it would have been another company that would have been first. A company that you've worked with a lot in the past.
Are you talking about Lost?
LVE, right?
Oh.
Or Lost Vape. Well, they used to be one company, then they split.
Oh, he froze.
Nope. See, he shut it down. He's like, "Oh shit!"
No, I didn't. No, I'm back.
He's like, "Oh
what
no!"
happened? What? All right, I missed the last bit. What,
I was gonna say.
what did you say?
Well, Lost Vape used to be one company, then it split to LVE.
Yeah, it split into two. Correct. Yeah.
And LVE is the one that basically was the one that was doing the DNA stuff.
Yeah. There were two people that owned that, two brothers. And
they split up, whatever.
Yeah.
And
They sort of had
LVE is the one that they took away. They're the originals, the original stuff with the DNA chipsets and the Lost Vape devices. I thought it would be them to be the first.
They might be one.
I know they're going to be the second.
I think I can say that. I think I can say that out loud.
Well,
I know that they're going to be the ones most likely. That I don't know it, but just the sixth sense I have, it's going to be them. I thought they would have been the first, but they'll be the second.
Well,
I mean, the scale is important. I think especially with the first one, just like I said, the margins on these boards are not great. So
yeah,
so is this going to be kind of like a conflict of interest, working with different companies supplying DNA chips for pods? Like,
no, we're used to Chinese firewalling. We don't discuss company A.
Gotcha.
Coming up with. I mean, even when they come up with something cool, we're like, oh my god, we should have thought of that. We don't drag that over to company B and be like, oh hey, you should do this. Which is hard because you're like, that is so much better. That is just so much better.
But you're sabotaging yourself and your business because if they find out you're leaking information, they ain't gonna buy from you again.
You got it. And we've been very, very, very diligent about keeping that stuff compartmentalized.
And I understand you're in the business to selling to everybody, so you could say it's a whole big conflict of interest, but I guess my meaning to that is that if you're going to do maybe in a short span work with different companies, I'm certain probably some of these companies, like let's say the next one you put out and the company that you just work with, they kind of look at theirs and then they look at the other companies and are kind of like, oh damn, I like their shit better than ours.
At that point we can go back and say, well, okay, we can that's yours.
So I have a question. I had just got a text message from somebody. They wanted to know this. I mean, I can't say who it is,
No, that's fine. That's
but
fine.
they want to know when is Yehi gonna use your chipset in one of their Pure Max devices.
There we go.
You want to hear something funny? I mean, I love the owner and his wife of Yehi. I mean, I mean, to the point where every time I see his wife, I just run up and hug her. So, I just got a message from them wanting to have dinner the next time I came to China. So,
Oh shit.
I really do like those.
Would that not be some
They're
shit though?
really really good.
How
people.
funny would that be, huh? If the
Yeah.
Yehi used DNA chip,
That would be some
weird.
shit right there.
S6 mini DNA.
DNA.
Holy shit.
Oh, the controversy, the happiness,
yeah,
everything
yeah,
from
yeah.
all the vapors out there. I think that if something like that was to happen, no joke, I think it would be the hottest selling device.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, everybody thinks, and I've said this before publicly that Dakotas and Evolv and Yehi, we're all like, we're really not.
Yeah.
Put us all in a room, we're fine. We're all
Yeah.
drinking coffee,
Yep.
vaping happy. I mean, yeah, no, and I've always liked them.
Nice, nice.
Well,
Yeah, because a lot of people think that there's always there's a beef between companies. They like to,
There's
social media manufacturing of.
well, like your car makers
beef.
fighting with one another or some shit like that. But
yeah.
Like Android and iPhone and Yehi
Yeah.
and Evolv.
yeah,
Right, exactly. Yeah, you've got, I mean, Samsung is a fast follower of Apple. You'll notice Apple will bring something out and then Samsung will get a version of it out very quickly.
And do it better.
Yeah.
There we
sometimes.
go. Whoa.
True.
Not always.
well, I will say this much. If for whatever reason, and I know probably 100% you would never do this, but if you ever get that wild hair up your ass and figure out some way to make something that's the size of a pinhead that you could dispose in a disposable and it have
Okay,
DNA
all
name
right.
on it, reach out to Mark because Mark
All right,
is the
I've
king
got-
of disposables. He knows every company and he can get you in with whoever you need to talk to.
Okay, here is. I'll lift the veil a little bit. When we were, remember we woke up and said, "Oh shit, what happened to the market?"
Yeah.
And everybody said, "Oh, it's over there with the disposable people." And we said, "Oh shit, we can't do anything for them because our stuff costs too much. You can't have a disposable that costs $50." So John and I got together and we're like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And we came up with this really clever idea. And we called it a stick kick, which was effectively a universal power control module that's very flat that I don't have a disposable here, but would fit on the bottom of a disposable, and sort of clip in different ways, but one size fits all, and it would be like $20 at a vape shop. So if you wanted to adjust flavor, you wanted to use things like replay or something like that on a disposable, all you would have to do is click this in. It would also give you battery readings, an actual real battery reading, and do different things. It would have a display on the bottom, so you would just clip it on. It wouldn't add a lot to the, maybe it's that thing.
You mean you clip it onto an existing somebody else's disposable device,
Exactly,
through the charge port?
Right. And so what I did was I walked that around to the disposable guys and I said, look, all you have to do is put this, duckbill style connector in here that would allow us to take over battery, so it's gonna route through our board and then back out to the atomizer, and trying to get a standardized sort of stick kick, port in the bottom of this, and they just weren't interested because at that time,
I was going to say that is going to be the biggest waste to do, because the people that are disposable, like the disposable market, they're, no offense to anyone that vapes disposables, but it's for lazy people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That's what it comes down to.
That was
It's
sort
if
of their
you're-
answer
if you
too.
don't want to
Their
deal
answer
with
is-
nothing, you're too lazy, you don't want to learn, or you don't want to build your own. You're too lazy to put your own liquid inside a pod. They're the disposable people.
And
Yeah.
you
It's just
see
quick.
Mark just
It's
walked
quickness.
off.
Yeah, well, For them to plug in something into the device and put a little complication, you just gave them too much info. Oh no, it's too
Right.
much.
But
Well,
it
it's not
would
really too much, but it's too much for them.
absolutely. But it would make it a little more consistent, a little more, and we thought, well, this is a great idea, and we walked it around, and we got exactly, they weren't as kind as you're being about their own users, and they said, no, that's not something. And not only that, but there was a race to the bottom. I mean, the disposable companies now the margins on those are 5 cents. I mean, and they're fighting over that 5 cents. This guy's want to go 4.5 cents on his. So, the margins are so low that you have to sell millions of those to make anything. And so, that's why the market is so flooded with those, because and you've got warehouses in China that are just stuffed full of those things that can't move.
I went to go look. I had an original kick. I don't know where I put it, but I still have the original one that you dropped into the tube mod.
Oh damn! I forgot about
How old is that?
Yeah, see,
Like,
Mark,
how old is that
Mark
thing?
knew what the stick kick was. Yeah,
That thing is old. Very.
Yeah. But we thought it was a pretty clever idea, but
yeah.
we just couldn't get any buy-in on it. So that was last year, 2024. I was like, hey, this is the thing we can do. We even had a drawing of it. We had a 3D model, how it would work, and we just couldn't get any buy-in.
Yeah. Kid makes a great point.
A couple big companies buy in on that, to put a standardized port in it. So
yeah, where it says disposables are getting more and more people into vaping, which is great. Of course, it's great.
It is great.
The thing is that you want to get them from doing the disposals to. Its perfect example was last week. Phil and Dimitri did a live show together, and Dimitri was saying how in his vape shops, he tells the disposable people, would you like to upgrade?
Right.
The upgrade is to go into the next step. Okay, now you've familiarized yourself with vaping. You're vaping this disposable. You want to try something different where you could use your own flavors. You could choose which flavors you want by using a regular pod.
Absolutely.
That's where they would get into maybe the upgrade of getting something that has a DNA chip or a non-DNA chip. Me personally, as much as I see that disposables are helping lots of people quit smoking, and it's not from reviewers, it's just they're everywhere, anywhere, any gas station, anywhere, they're just there. It's easy. That's the key point, is that it's easy. The only bad thing is that for me it's a waste, throwing all them batteries and just lots of e-waste, constant waste.
And one of my fears is that we don't want to initiate. I'm still a firm believer that this is a perfect alternative to smoking, but I don't want to initiate people on nicotine. I have 2 kids that are now adults, but when they were younger, the one thing I didn't want to see them do was initiate on nicotine if they weren't smokers.
Right.
And what I saw was a lot of people were, because those were sold in convenience stores, not in vape shops. And convenience stores have a lot looser policy on age restrictions. I think vape shops, had e-cigarettes stayed in vape shops, there wouldn't have been a youth issue. But the minute they moved into convenience stores, they became a lot more accessible to youth. And I'm forever going to say that. I think we didn't have that problem when John and we did a couple talks at FDA just on state of the art type stuff, and just where e-cigarettes were from a safety standpoint. And one of the things one of the guys said to me from the Office of Science when we were leaving was, we never had this problem when it was all refillables. We never had this problem. He said we wouldn't even be looking at you right now had it stayed all refillables. It was the sort of the pre-filled, like you said, the disposables that caused the.
Yep.
Yeah, because you make it too convenient, and suddenly. I mean, I'm not casting dispersions. I just think that's how it is. I think the minute they moved into convenience stores, it was over.
But they're starting to get banned. They got banned. I think. Did it happen in the UK?
Yeah, I used to go buy beer at 16 at a convenience store. Because you knew a guy. And or the guy didn't care. show me a vape shop that's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a lot of vape shops in a lot of countries, and I've never seen somebody walk in that didn't look, that wasn't carded, you know, when he
Yeah.
checked something. So
But from what I understand, I know like there's certain countries that they're getting banned.
they are,
I
yeah,
think in the
many.
UK, I think did it happen?
Yeah, EU.
How'd it happen? Yeah.
EU's already got a date, and each country is a little bit different. But
Yeah. So
France has already banned it. Indonesia never allowed them. I mean, their whole thing was you have to fill it here, and nobody was willing to do that. So, but yeah, I mean, the countries that really embraced disposals were places like I couldn't believe it when I went to Germany. I'd been to Germany before, and it was all, you know, really cool devices, and even the pod mods were, you know, kind of techy and cool. And then all of a sudden, I walked into a vape shop and it was all disposables. I mean, there was nothing. There was no Oxvas. It was just
yeah.
disposable.
Wow.
So
Are you still hitting some of the expos out of the country?
I did, yeah. I just got back from Dubai a few weeks ago. That was fun. It was more fun than last year. I went to Dubai last year and it was all disposables. I mean, it was literally all disposables. Um, but expos are nice for me because my customers are the companies that make the things. So
Exactly.
I kind of have them. They can't run away from me. So they're sort of stuck in their booth, so they have to talk.
Yeah. Now, since you have so much influence, you could
Mhm.
say, do you see because of the disposable situation where it's getting banned in a lot of places,
Mhm.
like hearing in the grapevine, do you think that the these are going to come back full force in the future, or
I don't think so. I think if we give an alternative, even like pre-filled pod mods, take something like this, offer a pre-fill solution. You know, the, the problem I have with the U.S. right now is there's just no regulatory clarity. It's what's legal, what's not legal. What are you going to enforce on? What are you not going to enforce on? I think the EU has it much better because they're very clear about what they're mandating and when it's going to come into effect and what the next TPD looks like. And you're seeing that in the Asian countries as well, where they're being very clear about about what the regulations are going to be and when they're going to take effect. Here in the U.S., it's like, well, everything's banned after this date, and then nothing is banned. So then all of a sudden they decide to start enforcing. So they're seizing $74 million worth of disposables.
that's
But
what I've been hearing? A lot of
yeah, I
disposals
mean,
being seized.
I don't know how you do business here. I mean, I really don't because there's absolutely no regulatory clarity here at all. We've given up on the U.S. I mean, it's as far as a market goes, we spent enormous amounts of money, getting the best PMTA we could put through to FDA. It's been under review for 3.5 years now. No
Yeah.
movement, no contact, no anything.
Mm.
And by the time we get approval on that, let's say another 2 years, 3 years, whatever, it's so old, nobody would ever want it anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, you saw that, who was it that Views got the Arrow or whatever it was through, but that product was so old by the time it got approved, they just dropped it. They were like,
Yeah.
nobody's going to want this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what all I'm asking for is just give us some clarity, just give us some clarity in the U.S. Or this is going to be a really weird market where people are terrified to send things here because we're the largest market in the world for e-cigarettes, but I'm already hearing from the people there that they're scared to death to send anything here, just
Yeah.
because it was okay yesterday, but not today, and it'll probably be okay tomorrow.
It's the same
Um,
thing with drones. You can't get them across the border anymore.
right, right. Well, I have a whole different thing on drones. I mean, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face with the drone thing.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Quick question, because I just thought of this real fast. Is there any particular reason that they couldn't do a 3 mil pod with the stainless?
Absolutely not.
I wonder why they
Matter
didn't.
of fact, one of the ones that's coming out is a 4 mil. The other's a 5 mil. Now, in Europe, in the EU countries, obviously we have the 2 mil limit.
Yeah, the TPD.
I think we're going to pull that. I really do. The interesting thing about going, I don't know how much time you guys have spent in Europe, but the thing that blew my mind the first time I went to the UK was in the bottom part of almost every hospital is a vape shop.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
yeah.
Now that's cool. Okay, I mean, that means that the government has recognized that this is a safer alternative, and that given that you as a smoker you've tried other ways of quitting and just can't do it, here you go. There, you're in for COPD or something like that. Here we've got a better alternative for you. Just go downstairs. I love that.
Yep.
And to clear up anything, Mark has got more time than me and Mike in Europe. So
yeah.
he's an avid flyer over there. So
yeah. Well, in the U.S., we went from all the way up to about 2015. We were the solution, right? I mean, that's how the press treated us. Thank God you're here. And then I don't want to point fingers, Juul, but came along and whether through a fault of their own or through their marketing, ended up not marketing to smokers, marketing as look at this new thing, and attracted a bunch of non-nicotine users.
Yeah.
I think
between Juul and the vape deaths back in 2019.
Yeah, the Evolv
Why?
stuff.
That destroyed the vaping industry here in the United States. The fake vape
and the
deaths.
CDC still has not corrected that.
No.
We know because there's one holdout. There's one kid that was 16 at the time that still swears to his parents it wasn't pot, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's pretty obvious what happened with that. I've said it like so many times that when those vape illnesses, sicknesses, deaths, whatever, in quotes, the vape part was.
Yeah, but I think the media had already turned at that point.
The reason the media did what they did was because how does the media make their money? Pharmaceutical companies.
Yep.
The pharmaceutical companies pay them lots of money to advertise. They control the media. So how easy it was for the media to say, make sure to say vape. Use the word vape.
Vape.
Yep.
Use the word vape in there.
Right.
And that's what they did. They used the word
absolutely.
vape. Which to people, this here is a vape, but
yeah, well,
what they were doing was a total different.
Right.
They should have said it. If it wasn't vape nicotine, it was a different type of vape. It was the whole word association, and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, if you walk in the street and if someone sees you vaping, those things will kill you.
Yeah,
And they're sitting there smoking
I've
a
actually
cigarette.
heard
telling
that.
you that.
My neighbor said that to me. He's like, "Oh,
that by far
why don't you smoke?"
that has to be the funniest thing in vaping is to have somebody come up with a cigarette and see you vaping and go, man, don't you know how dangerous that is? And you're just sitting there stumped like, what the hell are you doing? The thing is, though, I've got the knowledge of both. I was a smoker a lot longer than what I've been vaping. And I know the way I can't say that this isn't going to do something to me, because anything you ingest into your body, you take the potential of having some harm done. There's no doubt about it. But I know how I felt on smoking, and I know how I feel on vaping for almost, 12 or 13, something like that years. I don't feel like anything like I did when I smoked. And I smoked for 27 years. So,
Absolutely.
But
I'm the same way. I quit, so I could run around with my kids.
Yep.
And I've been able to do that. So.
Oh yeah.
Working.
Well, we've kind of come down to that time. We've been on it. We give y'all 20 minutes of OT. I want to thank Brandon so much for joining us tonight, and hopefully we can get you back again at some point.
Anytime.
Anytime these new ones are dropping, we're going to pull you on here and pick you.
Hey, you know what? I'm happy to come.
We're going to pick your brain on them.
I don't have a lot of vapors in my neighborhood.
But I do appreciate you coming and joining us tonight. Any final words from anybody?
No.
Mark,
Nope.
this is the one night. Anytime we bring a guest on, Mark normally goes into turtle mode. He won't say a damn thing other than just,
You know, I thought it was me because the last time he did that too. I was
Yeah.
like,
Well, the thing is, the majority of the questions that I've been asking you, Mark's been texting me them. 'cause
oh, has he?
He's shy, yeah. When there's someone new, he's shy to talk.
I just been looking in chat and everyone's been saying disposable with an Evolv chip. I'm like, yeah, that's like the most. That's like the most questioned thing in the chat. It was a little unbelievable. Like what?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, get
Never
with
say
the
never.
local- Yeah, get with the manufacturers and get them sold on the stick kick.
hell yeah.
Happy to do it. Yeah.
Well, again, Brandon, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to wrap it up. If we're here next Tuesday, we're here. If we're not, we're not. We'll just leave it like that. But Brandon, we'll have you back again pretty soon, and we're going to get out of here. So y'all have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next one. Let's do this.